Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right. Welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. So my guest, Kendra Corman, and I have just been having this conversation as we've been catching up before we hit record about what are we doing. And lo and behold, there's something in the water because we're both really doing the same thing to our business. And it's something we see people struggle with all the time. So I can't wait to dive into an official conversation with you about it. But before we do that, why don't you tell everybody just a little backstory, who you are, what you do, all the good stuff.
Sure. My name is Kendra Corman, and I have been helping small businesses and nonprofits do better marketing more efficiently and effectively for over 10 years now. Before that, I was in the corporate world. So I was the Jeep advertising manager, the SRT marketing manager. My claim to fame is that I learned to drive a Viper on the Rolex 24 course at Daytona.
Nice.
Not well, by the way, but I learned to drive one. And so I've worked for some of the biggest brands in the world and some of the smallest single person organizations. And I love what I do because I like helping people make a difference and a bigger impact.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. That's so awesome. So diving into what we were talking about, like we're both in this phase of our business where I call it, I've been taking a blowtorch to my business of looking at what is working, what is not working, what do we want, what do we not want, and taking this hard line approach to what we're doing and how we're doing it. So I'm curious, I know what my trigger was for that, but I'm curious, like, how did you get to the point where you're like, because you're doing good, right? We're doing all these great things, right? It wasn't necessarily a problem that got here. But so what was that? Like mine was more of a metaphysical breakdown. So it's like, right?
Well, so for me, there's a couple of different things. So first off, I was in a group with some other solopreneurs, small business owners, and we were chatting and having what I call therapy sessions. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm like, the problem that I have right now is I have so many meetings. I am in meetings like 8 hours a day, and there's no time to do any work. And this is coming off of 2020 and then 2021. So this is 2022. This isn't too long ago. And in 2022, I was packed with meetings. So in 2020, I added all these meetings because I wasn't seeing my clients. They weren't out doing things. And so we added more meetings because we were constantly twirling, pivoting, whatever you want to call it, adjusting what we were doing to make a difference and an impact and keep everybody afloat. And then nothing changed. COVID was done. Things were coming back to normal. But the meetings became the new normal. And so I had hit a breaking point. And one of the women in the group who runs her own business, and she's, yeah, just tell them you're not doing that anymore. Like, I'm sorry, what?
I know, right?
She's just tell them that you're going to move to every other week. Tell them you're going to move to once a month. Tell them you're going to move to a meeting when you need one. And I'm like,
I can do that.
Okay, I'm going to try that. So I tried it. First client. That's what I tell them. And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem.
They didn't want to be there any more than you did, right?
I'm like, oh my goodness. So it was crazy. So I reached a breaking point with time, basically availability. And then now it's been, I want to take my business in a different direction, but I'm buried in the stuff that is now legacy. And so I get frustrated easily, and it's just not leaving me to be quite as happy as I normally am because I love what I do. I love what I do all day, every day. I could do it all day, every day. Typing a task in Asana, I don't like. Sending a follow-up email on, hey, did you approve those social posts yet? Again, not something I want to do. I want to send an email that says, hey, so that you know what? There's some social posts you need to approve. If you don't approve them, your business suffers, not mine. Let me
Right.
know when you're ready.
Maybe that's the next email you say. But so there's number one, absolutely. I think we get into the habit of something and we make it normal without ever double checking why we're doing it that way. I absolutely agree with you that we came off, there's so many COVID related things that never went away. Supply chain problems, for example, ridiculous prices, and Zoom calls 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
But it used to be we had nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the outcome of your experience? Like, let me back up and ask this question first, because I'm having this also. How are you keeping your promises to yourself and not just falling back into what's automatic?
So it's hard.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to say I'm in recovery because I do slide back every once in a while. A couple of weeks ago, I was like, huh, yep, no needs to be my new word again because I was saying yes all of a sudden to everything. But I have a few hard and fast rules that I hold to. There's no recurring meetings on Mondays or Fridays. I don't have meetings before 10 a.m.
It's so crazy. I have the same exact two things.
And now, okay, so I do have twice a month. I have a networking meeting that I joined 10 years ago, and I enjoy the group. So I do go there at 7. There's one other group that's at 8 or whatever. But again, it's not recurring a
Mhm.
ton. It's not every week. It's not multiple times a week. And that has really helped me a lot. And I've seen the impact that had. So I actually had somebody that was 100% dedicated to my schedule, just my schedule. That was her only job. She helped me get it into shape. Once we had it in shape, now it's just up to me to hold true to it. And I do. I got an email a couple weeks ago. We had a family emergency in my family where we had to take my sister to get some tests and things like that. So, luckily enough, I have the flexibility in my job that I can do that. And I was happy to do it and still am. And my schedule's a little bit up in the air. A couple people have reached out to me, said, "Hey, I'm looking for this and I'm looking for that." And I'm like, "Sorry, my schedule's a little too up in the air right now. Do you want me to introduce you to somebody else or do you want to wait until I know a little bit more about my schedule? Because until we get test results and a diagnosis, we have no idea." And they're like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. I'll wait. They've been
It's
putting it off
right.
this long before. They're not dying for it."
Everything in our head is such a big deal. I did the same thing. I do have an appointment on Monday afternoons, but other than that, I almost never have appointments on Mondays. That way, if I want to slip something in there, I do. I 99% of the time don't work on Fridays. I only have 2 meetings and it's internal team. They don't care what I look like, but nothing starts before 10 a.m. and I'm done at 4. And I'm just, right, I'm moving my schedule in, the borders in tighter
Mhm.
and tighter, and nothing's not getting done.
Correct. Work expands the time you allow for it.
Yeah.
So when I was working 7 days a week, I wasn't getting more done. I don't actually know what I was doing because all the stuff is actually, I think more is getting done now because I'm more focused and I'm more present and I'm batching my time. So I'm going from meeting to meeting, and then I got a big chunk
You
where
could,
I can do work
yeah,
without being interrupted on thought. It's amazing.
it is amazing. So why do you think more people don't do this?
Head
Why is it so
trash.
hard?
Head trash. 100%. That is our problem. We think we should or we think we can do it. And therefore, that's why we do it, right? We think we should. We
Or
think
that's how
we
it's
should.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
I said this a long time ago. Busy is the new fine. How are you? I'm so busy. So now your brain has to go about proving you right by making sure you're so busy.
Mhm. One of my friends, she actually says, one day she told me, she's, "Oh, I've been really busy this week." She goes, "Normally my schedule is full. This week it's busy." But I'm like, I like the shift in attitude to full. I have a full schedule.
Mhm.
I always have a full schedule. I cannot imagine myself not having a full schedule. Even if I am on vacation in Mexico, I will have a full schedule. It might be laying by the pool, but it's
But
scheduled.
it's written down.
It's
Right. I say
scheduled.
put it on the calendar, live by the calendar. Put it on the calendar,
What
live
I
by
do.
the calendar. You'd be amazed at what's on my calendar, right? There's things where you say to the assistant, just don't even ask. It's on the calendar. Don't even ask. So, what's your objective here?
So my objective is I want more time. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with all that time I'm finding yet.
Right. And I think that's a
I just
big,
want the flexibility to
yeah,
choose.
the freedom to choose. I think a lot of people don't create more time in their schedule for two reasons. One, their priorities are backwards, but two, they don't know what to do with it. They wouldn't know what to do if they had the time, right? Because busy is almost an addiction that
Mhm.
allows us to not face what calm and quiet might allow to pop up for us.
I love to learn. I can fill time like you would not believe
Mhm.
with with education, like reading books, reading trashy romance novels when I need
Yes,
a mental
this is my
break.
rule. This is my rule. Education and inspiration in the morning, trashy romance is from 7 p.m. on.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Because all right.
Otherwise, it gets
One
boring.
other change I made. So I made the change to the 10 a.m. start of all my meetings and nothing earlier because I was going to go to the gym. So that's funny. And that didn't happen. But I was going at so now my husband is an early riser, grew up on a farm in central Pennsylvania. He gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And we carpool to work. Well, he goes to work. I drop him off between 7 and 7:15 almost every day. So I'm at the office between 7 and 7:30. I used to just jump into work. No, I don't start before 8 anymore. I grab one of my education books, I read a couple chapters, I set a little timer, I
I,
chill out, I orient myself, and
yeah,
then at 8 o'clock, then I can look at my email and my calendar. But until then, I won't look at it.
I'm doing the exact same thing, and it's amazing the effect that it's having. I got a reclining chair for up in my office because there's a lot of times where no, there's no appointments, but I'm working. But I don't have to necessarily be sitting upright. It's just an entirely more comfortable approach. Because here's the other thing. If you're not, nobody can do their absolute best, most amazing work if they're stuffed to the gills with got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. You're just not, that's not how our brains work.
If you don't have time to think,
Yeah.
if you're not rested with time to think, you can't write. And then that means in today's day and age, that means you can't communicate. That means you can't sell. That means you can't grow your business. That means you can't build relationships. That means that you will be doing this forever.
It's
And that's not what I want to do.
no, it's the bang your head against the wall version of business. And I've really, anything that makes me feel rushed doesn't happen in my life anymore. Anything that makes me feel like I'm chasing anybody is not the way that it's happening in my business anymore. Because that's a great thing about the whole entrepreneur world is you actually can decide how this works for you.
So again, I had a family emergency last week. I didn't post on LinkedIn for a week. I replied to some people's comments and things, but I didn't have the energy to come up with my own posts. I didn't actually think about it.
Right.
My business didn't suffer. I had 3 people reach out to me on LinkedIn anyway. So looking for me to help them. It's a lot of what we do, a lot of how we spin our wheels. It's all head trash. And if you can think differently, don't think about it as spending, look at what it is and see if it's an investment. And I used to judge it as an investment was something that would make me money. Not anymore. An investment is, yes, something that would make me money because that would be nice. An investment is also something that's going to give me time.
Yes. I never, and I know you come out of corporate, and I think this is something that really helps us because so do I, is one of the tools you learn in corporate because it's just the way it is delegating. I never had the whole have to do it all myself. I've never had that because I didn't learn how to do work that way.
I think a lot of people coming out of corporate, because they don't have the infrastructure, they suffer with it, thinking that they have to do it all in the beginning because they're not bringing in enough money or whatever that happens to be. So I think some people do struggle with it. They struggle with that delegation because they're building their baby, right? Your business is your baby. It's something that you've made. You own it. It's going to be a reflection of you. And it's important that you own so much of it, especially in the beginning, right? That I think that's where people get stuck and then they're doing it. It becomes a norm, whether it should be or shouldn't. And then we can't change off of it.
We don't know how to get out of it. And I also think that personal attachment to it is not, I get it, but it's not setting you up for success.
It isn't. And we were talking earlier about a couple books I'm reading, but one I just read was Buy Back Your Time. And it's interesting because this has actually come up several times for me recently. I always used to think about that Eisenhower matrix where they talk about important and urgent and not important and urgent and all these other things. I could never put things in those quadrants for whatever reason. It just didn't go for me. And someone said earlier this week, they said to me, yeah, that's because you're emotional about your tasks. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. But Buy Back Your Time has a different methodology and a different matrix that allowed me to keep the emotion and put it other places. It's based upon what lights you up and what makes you money. Like that, I can still keep the emotion into the fact that this is important and it's urgent. Trust me, it's got to be because I've been doing it forever. And I can still keep that mentality with it while I'm putting things in these different boxes. Again, what lights me up and what makes me money, that's easier for me to see. That's easier for me to write down. And yeah, so it's pretty cool because again, when you're talking about the emotion tied to it, I think that's the hardest piece of everything for us.
Absolutely. It's why it's so dangerous to build your business in a bubble and not go out and vet your offer. I think the more you focus internally on yourself and what you want to sell and what you want to do for your clients, as opposed to what they want to buy and what they actually need, and you put all that time and effort and emotion into it, and then nobody buys your baby, it's crushing. And so you have to have that separation, at least in some way, if the goal is to be a business owner. If it depends on what the goal is. If the goal is to have a business, businesses exist to solve problems, right? People make an investment to solve whatever problem it is that they're trying to solve. And in addition to making sure there's that separation so you're not trapped in something that the market doesn't want, it's very hard to pivot when the market changes, when you're that attached to your way of doing it. Or if you change, when it's time for you to take your next step, you can get very stuck.
So one of my favorite tools is AI right now. AI saves me 3+ hours per podcast episode.
Oh,
That doesn't even include the time that I save by delegating some of the stuff that's more routine to my assistant. AI can save me 30 to 40 hours a week if I'm using it right. It's crazy, right? And again, it was all stuff that was low level stuff that I didn't necessarily need to be doing, and AI can do for me now. But one of the interesting things is someone was asking me about one of Google's AI tools, Gemini, and I said, nah, I don't really use it. They're like, and I was like, because Google had AI and chat-based AI before anybody else. And they didn't want to roll it out because they didn't think that we could handle it responsibly. Now, I'm not saying that I don't agree with Google, but you don't get to make that choice for us, right? You don't get to hold back something like Kodak did with the digital camera because you're trying to protect another piece of your business. You've got to evolve. You've got to move. Otherwise, you're going to end up in
Like
second place.
Blockbuster, right?
You'll end up like Blockbuster, Kodak. We can go on. And ChatGPT outperforms all day, every day Google's Gemini because people are using it because they came out to the market first and they weren't trying to protect other business. And I really think that pivoting, that ability to not be emotionally tied to rationalize why people can or cannot have something is extremely important.
You
And
don't want
talking
to,
to people.
yeah. That was one of the horrifying things I learned. So when I got my MBA, because of where I live, the school was just right in the middle of Pharmaceutical Row, right? Baxter, Takeda, all that stuff was right there. So a lot of the people that I went to school with were scientists and high-level people in those industries that needed the business side of it. And the entire pharmaceutical business is run by buying better drugs than what's on the market and shelving them so that they don't lose their market share and their
Mm-hmm.
profitability.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I know right now that is how they do what they do. You just karma, right? You just can't convince me that's not going to come back around at some point in some way
It's gonna.
and take these companies out of the game. Some of them. Yes.
But
So
yeah, be
what's
less
next for you?
emotional. I'm loving AI. I'm doing a lot of speaking on AI, a lot of training on AI, especially to get people help people get their feet wet. So that's fun.
So let's stop there for a second,
Yeah.
because this is what one of the mistakes I'm watching people make. And for me, this was we use AI for efficiency all over the place. We use AI for iteration. I call it to get rid of my writer's block. I'll have a topic and I'll ask it for, give me 10 things, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go back through and I'll like, oh, I like these two. And then I'll expound on them. I'm not using AI for creation. And we have a very noisy marketplace. We have no barrier to entry in our marketplace. Most of us, if you have a phone and an internet connection, you can start a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've literally, but it's making everybody sound the same, which to me is fantastic because I just moved all my long form content to YouTube. Like, ta-da! It's really not hard. And so there's some mistakes I see people.
Oh, there's a lot of mistakes. People are phoning it in. That's not an excuse. AI is here to help you save you time and help you make a better product,
Correct.
not give you a
Replace you.
mediocre product. Correct. So I actually just got stickers and I don't have one at my desk right now. It says AI is co-pilot, not autopilot.
Oh my God, I love it.
So it was a quote that I did in one.
True.
It's a quote that I did from one of my solo podcast episodes, and someone wrote, "This should be a bumper sticker." And I'm like,
AI is the
I'm making
co-pilot.
laptop stickers with this on it, and I did.
Love it.
But the thing is, yeah, I'll use it. I really just use it to edit my stuff. Like I'll create it. I'll have it edit it.
Yeah.
I don't use the word delve. I was starting to use the word ethos and I was embracing that for a little while, but every chat GPT result was giving me was delve in ethos. Let's delve into the topic. No, I'm not delving into
I don't
anything.
delve.
I don't delve.
You don't delve.
And like people all over LinkedIn are complaining about AI generated comments. And I'm like, it's not AI. It's the lazy people that are phoning it in and copying and pasting. Like I have
But
a
by the
really
way, that never worked before. So it's not going to start to work now.
correct.
And the people, here's the other thing. Someone's always going to have to push the button. Humans are not going to be, and I'm old enough at this stage. I was actually filling in during a holiday break as a receptionist. This is going to age me right here, but it was hysterical. I was filling in as a receptionist in my cousin's law firm for a month off Christmas holiday break when the fax machine came to town in Chicago. So no, it wasn't like middle of nowhere town, but so I remember specifically when they were saying that robots were going to eliminate the workforce and then computers were going to eliminate the workforce. And I don't know if you've seen the workforce, but people are working more than ever before. AI is never going to eliminate the workforce.
AI has given me the courage
Mm,
to show more of my personality.
that's interesting.
My emails to my email newsletter that goes out every Thursday to my database and stuff, it has more personality. My podcast is having a little bit more personality. All of it is getting bumped up because there's so much of the same. And I know I can be
Right.
different and I know I'm engaging because of my style. So I don't mind saying a swear word in an email or putting some asterisks and stuff in place of it. But I don't mind talking about the office or likening something to something that I came across when I was watching a TV show. I don't mind having the pop
Right.
culture references. I don't like if my brain goes
It
off
makes you
someplace,
human.
I just go with it now. And yeah, AI might edit it a little bit, might help me with it and focus it. Then I edit what AI does again, but it just helps me refine
Hmm.
and that's it.
Right.
Now I do teach part-time. I'm an adjunct faculty at a local university. AI has done amazing stuff for my students
Yeah.
because I encourage them all to use it. My students where English is their second language, I can read all of their papers and they make sense. It's their ideas and I can tell it's their ideas because I know them because I've been teaching them for 4 years now. And but it's great because they're putting out a level of work that I don't have to penalize them for grammatical errors because AI is helping them.
And it's not, it's the thing about school, right? Schools teaches people how to be a good employee at a factory. That's when our school system was created,
Mhm,
and it still functions the same way. Like, why wouldn't you let kids use AI tools in college? They're going to use them when they get out.
mhm. They don't know how to use it when they get out. They're behind. And so I need them to be on top of it. And so I'm encouraged. They're like, oh, it's cheating. I'm like, okay, let me. And then I pull out my podcast process. We walk through it. I'm like, how did I cheat? They're like,
Because it wasn't hard enough.
oh,
This
but
is how we're teaching people that if it's going back to where we started this conversation, we
mhm,
teach people that everything should be really hard to accomplish in order to have value.
mhm.
And there's certain things, I'm not saying hard work doesn't pay off, but you don't have to make it hard in order. First of all, hard work is no guarantee, and it doesn't have to be hard.
Yep.
And right back where we started, if you go through your list of what's actually effective and pick what lights you up and pick what makes a difference, it's amazing how everything that you cut out with a blowtorch was the hard part.
Yep. 100%. There's an email that I haven't wanted to send for 4 days now. And so I was on the phone with my assistant and I said, hey, I said, I just don't want to do it. Can you just draft it for me? She's done.
Because she
Thank
doesn't
you.
have the emotional attachment to
She
it. So
doesn't
she's
have emotional.
not
I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
I know.
And it's so powerful. It sounds silly. It sounds like, oh, I should be able to send that email. Yeah, I should. I don't want to.
It's that
So I'm
easy.
not gonna. Yeah,
It'd be
exactly.
that
Get rid of the head trash. Do not come into anything with a preconceived notion of what needs to be done or what needs to happen because you will be blown away when you push back on it a little bit, how accepting people are of it.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
Totally. So if people want to continue this conversation with you, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So, best way to get a hold of me is to connect with me on LinkedIn, Kendra Corman with a C. But if you want to check out my book on AI, because if you want to start
Yeah,
figuring out how you can start saving time, you can visit kendracorman.com/AI book. And you can get a free copy, a free e-copy of the book that I wrote earlier this year on mastering AI in communications. And then you'll have my email and you can just reply and ask me any questions that you want because I love chatting with people.
love it. And we'll put the all the links in the show notes so that you are just one click away, especially that book. I think that's a huge tool. People don't know where to start. So that's absolutely amazing. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for spending time with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I truly enjoy bringing these stories of success and inspiration to you. Please join us in our mission to empower entrepreneurs to be in charge of their businesses and in charge of their lives by sharing this with anyone you know who would benefit from our tactical and motivating advice, leaving us a review, and letting us know if there are any particular topics you would really appreciate hearing about. See you next time.